quickly paid themselves off with the amount of time they have saved me. I've left the links to each tool in the description for you to check out, and without further ado, let's get started. Okay, in the spirit of full transparency, some of the links in the description are going to be affiliate links. However, I do use these tools on a regular basis, and because I like these tools, I sought out those affiliate relationships rather than the other way around. So you know, when I recommend these tools, it's because I really like them and I think that they can help you. Okay, so with that out of the way, let's get started. Now, first up, we have Overlord. Now, if you've ever watched any of my recent videos or any of my live streams, you know that I stand for Overlord hard. Let's take, for example, this scene right here with these two characters. Now, this could be a scene I downloaded from the internet, or it could be something that a designer has handed off to me and now I need to animate. Now, I want to bring in this scene to After Effects, but I want to have full control over all the different elements in this scene. In order to do that, I need all these different elements to be brought into After Effects on separate layers. But in Illustrator right now, all these elements are on one layer. So if I'm going to do this the conventional way, I would select all these different shapes and release to layers, then drag all these shapes out of the original layer. Now, this is already way more complicated than it should be, and we're not even in After Effects yet. Now, if you look at the layer stack, I have nearly 200 layers, so I'm gonna have to simplify this scene before I bring it into After Effects, or else I'm gonna be overwhelmed. So I'll have to spend some time grouping things together. Now, with Overlord, I don't have to do any of that. I don't have to release to layers. I can keep everything on one layer. All I have to do is select the shapes that I want to bring over to After Effects and then hit this little button right here. Now, with just that example, you can see already that Overlord is a lot quicker and easier to use than the conventional way. But there's a few more things I love about Overlord. If I want to have more control over my layers and, for example, be able to change the color or animate the shape path, I have to convert the Illustrator files to After Effects shape layers. Let's take this little couch here, for example. I'm going to convert it to a shape layer. Watch what happens when I do. All of a sudden, the back of the couch turns this muted gray. And that's because in Illustrator, I applied a gradient to the back of the couch. The gradient will not translate, which means it will fill it in with a solid fill, and you'll have to recreate that gradient, which means you'll have to add a gradient fill and then select the colors of the gradient, reposition the gradient. Now, if you have an Illustrator scene full of gradients, you're gonna spend a lot of time recreating all those gradients. With Overlord, however, all I have to do is select that couch, which I've already grouped up, hit this button right here, and boom, when we switch back over to After Effects, I've got my couch, I've got my gradient, I don't have to reconstruct anything. Now, there's another problem that happens when you convert Illustrator files to shape layers in After Effects, and it's illustrated really well with this character on the left. If I convert this character to shapes, you'll see that the bounding box is actually the size of my composition. And that's because when After Effects converts Illustrator files to shape layers, for whatever reason, it adds an extra path the size of the artboard of Illustrator to every single shape group. And since this character is made up of a bunch of different shapes, I have to go into each and every one of those groups and delete this extra path. That's a whole bunch of time wasted. If I use Overlord, I just select the character, hit this button, and boom, the character comes over all nice and clean, no extra path. Here's the deal. If you're somebody who does a lot of explainer videos, or you just work a lot with Illustrator files in After Effects, or if you're somebody who's been avoiding Illustrator because of the aforementioned pain of bringing Illustrator files over to After Effects, then you gotta give Overlord a shot because it will revolutionize your workflow from Illustrator to After Effects. The next tool we're gonna look at is Motion 3. This is a tool that has a bunch of different tools that are included with it. And there's honestly too many to go over in this video, but I wanted to call out a few things about this tool that I think are potential huge time savers for you. The first is the easing tool. These little sliders can be used to quickly apply custom easing to your selected keyframes. Motion also comes with a couple of presets that are different from the default Easy Ease motion that you would get by just hitting F9 on your keyboard. However, the biggest time saver that Motion 3 offers is its ability to focus your workspace. So for those of you who constantly find yourselves working in compositions with a ton of layers, listen up, because this feature can be really useful for you. To use this, just select the layers you're currently working with that you want to see, and then click on the focus mode, and Motion will hide all the other layers you're not working on. Then you can make your adjustments, you can make your animations, and when you're done, you can just click on this little button to the right and all your layers will be visible to you again. Now here's the really cool thing. You can actually group layers together so that you can choose a group of layers that you want to focus in on. So say for example, I have this character rig right here and I just want to work on the legs. I can group the leg layers and their associated controller layers into a group, and then I can activate focus mode. Now, something happened with my mic and it was off. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Welcome everybody to the live stream today. It has been a while. It's been over a month since we've last done a live stream. Looks like the mic is working on my end. Let me just go in and see if it's working on your end. The mic is working now. Cool. Sorry, your guys' chats are a little bit delayed from when I receive them. So, or I should say, I'm a little bit delayed. And then your chats come in. Nice. Well, welcome to the live stream, everybody. We're going to do another live stream about character animation within After Effects. Today I want to talk about how to approach hands. How do we approach hand animation with our character? I get this question a lot. So I thought today would be a great day to go over that. I'll go over that. I'll show you a little rig that we had started on a previous live stream, and then I kind of finished up behind the scenes for a project. Is my mic loud enough? That's the other question I have. Let me know if it's loud enough. I'm going to bump it up a little bit. Just a little bit. I'm using this mic now. Hopefully it's a little bit better quality than the mics I've been using in the past. Okay, so if you're in the chat, say hello. Let us know where you're viewing from. We're just going to wait a little bit to let people kind of trickle in. It has been a while since I've done one of these live streams, so it's going to take a little bit for people to trickle in, but I've had a busy couple of weeks. And if you're in the chat, in addition to letting us know where you're viewing from, let me know if this is the first time you've joined us, or if this is, the second, third, or, if you've joined us before. Let me know in the chat. And looks like from Dallas. And that is a weird little symbol. Is that like another language? I've never seen that language in your username, or is that just some special symbol you can add to your name? Because I don't even know how to pronounce that name. From Dallas. Okay, cool. You've seen some of my videos. First time you've joined the live stream. We got a second time join the live stream. Kind of funny. The live stream comes in earlier on the preview of my stream than it does on my little chat console down in the thing. What language is that? I'm curious to know. From Morocco. We got from Dallas, from Morocco. Awesome. Second time viewer. Thanks for joining me once again for the live stream. Hopefully you enjoyed the first time. If this is your first time, settle in. We're gonna be working on character animation in After Effects. That's kind of our thing on this channel. I do a lot of videos and tutorials on character animation, specifically in After Effects, and I also do some stuff about, you know, like just general motion graphics kind of stuff here and there, productivity tips, productivity tools. So if you are a recurring viewer and it's been a while, I've just been super busy with work, and I've been busy working on my character animation course, which is coming out soon. That's coming out here soon. I've been heads down working on that, and that's kind of the biggest reason why I haven't been able to do live streams and haven't been able to spend time making videos for YouTube. But as soon as I get that out of the way, we're going to get right back into it, and I'm going to start picking up the cadence of publishing YouTube videos and tutorials and whatnot. If you are interested, if this is your first time, maybe you've not heard me talk about the character course, but if you go to keyframeacademy.com/character-pre-order, let me see if I can bring it up here real quick. Let's see, browser. Let's see if it'll work. I also haven't fired up Streamlabs in a while because I haven't been streaming in a long time. So there we go. So some things are working and some things are not working. It's kind of funny. Okay, here we are. Bear with me for a second. There we go. Okay, so this is the landing page for the character pre-order. It's still in pre-order, although I am getting really close to I'm going to release it chapter by chapter. There's going to be 3 chapters. The first chapter is kind of the foundation principles of rigging and animating your character rig. And that chapter is really close to being done. In fact, I just uploaded all the lessons for that chapter today. And I just have to go through and kind of make sure they're ready to go. And then we're going to be releasing that first chapter to the people who have pre-ordered. And I haven't gone through and calculated how many hours that first chapter alone is, but I would, if I just off the top of my head, 2 to 3 hours of content just right there in the first chapter. We cover everything from how to design your character, how to rig it up, how to use Limber, which is the rigging tool that we're going to use in this course, how to use Do-It connectors, how to do a head rig, a really simple head rig that can, show some different emotions. And then we do some animation exercises. We do a walk cycle, because walk cycles are super important to understand. I mentioned this in the course, but if you can animate walk cycles well, and this is a quote from the Animator's Toolkit, Survival Kit. Animator's Survival Kit is a book about animation. It's also an iPad app. I recommend you go pick it up if you want to become good at animation. So even though that book is geared towards frame by frame animation, people who are, animating frame by frame, it is incredibly, there's all kinds of principles that he goes over in that book about animation that obviously still apply to animation in After Effects, even though we're using keyframes instead of drawing things frame by frame. So one of the things he says is if you can animate walk cycles well, then you can animate well, because there's so many moving parts of a walk cycle that happen at different times and stuff like that. So and you're thinking about how things move together and how they move independently and how weight shifts and stuff like that. So that's one of the things we go over in the first chapter, how to do a walk cycle. And then we take that a little bit further from not just how to do a walk cycle, but how to like move your character across screen, how to plant the feet. I know one thing that is a lot of people struggle with walk cycles is how to plant those feet as they walk across the screen. So that's something we cover. And then we end the chapter with a little bit of a project where you get to kind of come up with your own animation, and I kind of walk you through my approach to that assignment, but you get to kind of experiment with that on your own. And we cover things like what's the difference between IK and FK, and when to use IK and when to use FK, stuff like that. So and that's just the first chapter. There's 2 more chapters. Second chapter, we're going to cover how to do a walk cycle like this, from the front perspective. And then the third chapter, we're going to kind of go over how to concept, plan, create reference for, and create animations like this where, we're working with perspective and stuff like that. So it goes from the really basic stuff to the more advanced stuff to, using these kind of more advanced 2.5D faux 3D applications. So that's what the course is about. If you are interested, I would grab that course as soon as possible, because right now the pre-order price is at $79. Once we launch this course, it's going to jump up to about $250. So if that is something that you want to learn, you definitely want to jump in now. And I also mentioned that we're going to be using Limber as the character rigging tool of choice. And I apologize to anybody who's joined me in the live streams before and they've heard this whole spiel before and have already pre-ordered the course. Bear with me for just one moment while I explain this to those who haven't had a chance to join us. But I mentioned we're going to be using Limber, and the great thing is that we're going to be providing Limber for 3 month. You're going to get a 3-month temporary license to Limber so that you can use it through this course, in case you don't already own Limber. The reason why I chose Limber as the tool of choice is because animations like this and like this are really not possible unless you want to do it by hand. You can't really do stuff like this with Duik, and you can with Limber. So, or Rubber Hose or any of those, like none of those can you get animations like this. So, and that's what people really wanted to learn. I put out a survey. A lot of people want to learn how to do that kind of 2.5D and faux 3D perspective kind of animation. And so that kind of solidified it for me that we got to use Limber. But I didn't want Limber to be a obstacle for you guys to be able to take the course. I know you're already spending money on the course, and so I worked it out with Steve, who is the creator of Limber, and we're going to be able to provide a temporary 3-month license for those who are taking the course and don't already own Limber. Because Limber is not free, and unlike Duik, and what you get with Limber is really you get simplicity, so you can spend your time working on your animation instead of spending your time going through the whole process of rigging something up. Don't get me wrong, love Duik. I use Duik. We'll be using Duik today in this tutorial, but Duik, with its big feature set, comes with a lot of steps, and it can get kind of you can get bogged down in the setup process, and then by the time you get to the animation, you get kind of burnt out. So not to mention that Limber does something that no other tool does, which allows you to animate things like this and like this. So again, in the second chapter, this is what we're going to be going over. We're going to take the principles of the walk cycle that we did in the chapter 1, and then we're going to say, okay, here's what we learned in chapter 1. How do we take this and how do we apply it to, or how do we apply things like perspective and foreshortening to this, and how do we shift that perspective? So this kind of stuff you don't see a lot of people doing in After Effects, right? And this kind of stuff, but it's definitely possible. So I want to share the knowledge. I want to share that with you guys. So again, keyframeacademy.com/character-pre-order. And some of this stuff I've already covered in some past live streams, but let me know in the chat if you guys have any questions about that. If you're just joining us, I just saw a couple people pop in while I was giving that spiel. Let us know where you're joining from, and let us know if this is your first time joining the live stream, or if this is, you've joined the live stream before. Just let us know in the chat. Today, I thought we could jump in and talk about what do we do with hands? How do we animate hands? How do we rig up a hand rig? This is a question I get a lot about character animation. And before we jump into After Effects, I just want to say that hands are hard for everybody, and hands are just notoriously hard. They're hard to draw, and then when it comes to rigging them up, they're super hard to do too. And one of the things about After Effects is in animating, doing character animation in After Effects, is knowing what your limitations are before you knowing what you can and can't do in After Effects helps you to come up with some clever solutions to animating things as complex as hands. And the thing about hand animation is that you're never going to have a hand rig that can do everything from any angle whatsoever. You kind of have to know, you kind of have to have your animation planned out a little bit beforehand, so you know what you what your hand rig needs to do. In fact, that doesn't just apply to hand rigs, that applies to any rig, character rig in After Effects in general. You're going to save yourself a lot of time by planning things out before you jump into like fully rigging out a character. I know there's a lot of people who want to be able to rig a flexible character that works in all situations so that they can just reuse it for all their different projects, or for, maybe that's just one project, but they need this character in a bunch of different scenes. And the thing is you can either plan the scenes around what your character can do, or you can plan your character around the scenes that you need the character to do. And if you need your character to do something wild, you're going to have to plan on how to rig that up specifically for that scene. Hopefully I'm not being too vague in that explanation. But I mean, for example, if we go back to my character page here, this animation right here. There we go. Okay, this character rig can it's planned out only to do this animation, right? This isn't a very flexible rig, but it doesn't need to be, because I planned out the whole animation. I created the references for it. I knew what I wanted the end product to be from start to finish. So something like this, I'm not going to be able to reuse this rig in another scene. I'd have to recreate the rig for another scene. Same with this in all reality. I mean, this could probably, with a few tweaks, could be used to do all kinds of different animations. But things like the feet here, which are a little bit of a Duix slider rig in and of themselves, if I needed to change the perspective to say the side of the shoe, I'd have to recreate that rig. So anyway, the point being that if you try to build a flexible rig, you can build a rig that can do a lot of different things, but not everything. And the same goes for creating hands. You're going to see the kind of limitations of a hand rig as we go on. Okay. Looks like we got a few more people in the chat. Let us know where you're joining from, where you're watching from, and if this is your first time or if you've joined us before on a live stream. And then also hit me up with questions that you guys have as I'm going through. Make sure you're leaving those questions in the chat so that I can address those questions. One of the reasons why I like to do these live streams so that I can answer questions in real time. Okay. So let me just decide what the first thing I want to jump to here. Okay, let's go over to After Effects. Let me make sure I'm all prepped here. Actually, I have to save this as a separate file. All right, give me just 1 second, guys. I'm just saving this file. Okay. Let's jump into After Effects here. We'll see you guys on the other side. I'm just gonna... Okay. That's a good question. Where's a good place to start for character animation? Well, you can go back and look at some of my tutorials. I mean, obviously, my channel is a good place to start. YouTube in general. Of course, if you want to get started, you could pre-order the course. Because like I said, I don't know if you were here for my whole spiel about my online course, but chapter 1 is kind of all the basics of character animation. We go over design, or how to design a character or build a character for rigging, how to rig that character using Limber, and then we have some animation exercises. So that's as good of introduction to character animation as I can think. So yeah, that's a good place to start. But if you want to go for free, you just search YouTube character animation in After Effects and look for videos that have Duick in the name or Limber in the name. In my opinion, try to avoid videos that are trying to teach you how to animate characters without plugins. Like, you'll see videos are like easy character animation, no plugin. Those, I understand the appeal of lessons or things that don't require an add-on. But first of all, super important to understand that Duick is essentially free. It's offered for free. You don't have to pay a cent to use it, and it has everything you need to animate characters. So if money's an issue, Duick's a good option. The other thing I think with like a no plugins, videos or tutorials that are saying no plugins required, is that having to learn how to use a plugin is intimidating, because you have to learn how to use a tool. And so you know how to use After Effects, and so if they're advertising no plugin, you're like, great, I don't have to learn a new tool. And I understand that sentiment, because I've tried to learn Duick, and it's hard, it's complicated. But
it's worth it. And so basically the point I'm trying to make here is that look for the ones that are teaching with Duik or Limber, or Rubber Hose is another one, because these tools are giving you functionality that you just can't do natively with After Effects. And the animations that they're going to try to teach you to do with no plugins are not really that good. They're either going to try to just show you how to parent layers and then animate the rotation, which is good for certain actions, but not for a walk cycle. Without the IK functionality, walk cycles are nearly impossible to do well. And then they're going to use the puppet tool. And the puppet pin tool is not a great tool for doing any kind of serious character animation. So that's my advice. Somebody asked if there is an anti-popping in Duik Basalt like there is in Limber. Not that I'm aware of. There might be in the next version of Duik, but I am not aware of any anti-popping feature in Duik like there is in Limber. And I do really love that about Limber. It's just another reason among many, 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 many reasons why I choose Limber over Duik for my character rigging. Robert's joining us from Germany. Thanks, Robert, for participating in the chat. Yukon says, "Hi, I ordered your course. When will it start?" Really, really soon. In case you didn't join us earlier, the course is coming out soon. I've just finished uploading chapter 1 up to the course website, so those lessons in chapter 1 will be available soon. I'm not going to go through everything that I said about those again. You can rewind the video and go back and watch that. I already went over that, but it's really soon. So keep an eye on your email inbox, because I will be sending out an email announcing dates soon. So keep an eye out on that. I am way behind on where I wanted to be at this point with the course, but I'm hoping that the extra time I've been taking to create the course will pay off in the end. Any practices you recommend to get better at vector characters, vector art style? Studying, just looking at references and looking at art styles, searching websites like Shutterstock, Envato Elements, Free Pick, these stock websites, looking at the vector styles that are on there and just trying to see how they draw things. I mean, anytime you want to get better at at drawing or creating art, you got to look at other art and experiment a little bit and use references. For some reason, I think as artists, we kind of feel like using references is cheating, but it's not. It's how all art is made. So that's my advice. Okay, so let's move on to the tutorial here. So I've got this little character rig here, and you'll notice she has no hands. And she needs some hands. So one thing I want to make a point about is if you go back and you watch any kind of popular cartoon like Rick and Morty or anything, a lot of the times hands are animated. They're not actually like hand animated frame by frame. They are just basically images that they switch between really quickly. I wish I could just like pull up YouTube and show you an example, but I don't want to get copyright. I don't want to get copyright struck. I don't know what the right verbiage there is, but just trust me, or you can go search Rick and Morty on YouTube and watch a couple, minutes of it, and you'll notice. And then what you can do is you can go frame by frame with the comma, or I don't know, Google how to the comma and period button on your keyboard. You can move frame by frame on YouTube. And so go frame by frame, you'll see that like when they switch hand poses, it's not like frame by frame. They're just switching to a different almost like image of the hand. So for a lot of stuff like this, you can do the same thing when it's, kind of a full body character rig like this. We don't need that dexterity in the hand rig of being able to individually animate the fingers, right? So we can make a kind of like switch template to just switch between different hand layers. There is a tool called SF Caddy. Go look for it on Gumroad. Unfortunately, I don't have a link in the description because I wasn't really intending on using it. But this makes switching between different hand poses really easy. It's a tool specifically for that. It's actually for lip syncing, but you can also use it to switch between hand poses. I'm going to basically essentially do the same thing, but with with Duik. So yeah, sliders, exactly. We're going to make a slider where we can just slide between the different poses of the hand. Robert Stern is extracting. Sorry, this is a little bit of a tangent. Not really relevant to hand animations, but I do want to address this question from Robert. Robert asks, is extracting controllers to another composition possible in Limber as it is with Duik? And the answer to that question is yes, but there are some compromises you have to you have to be willing to take. And I might even be able to show you with this rig right here. If I just go and create a new composition, we'll do this. We'll call this Limber Extract. And that's not how you spell extract. Okay. And then I bring this composition into here. This rig, right, is made up of Limber limbs, and then I have a Duik slider here that turns the body, and then I've got some joysticks and sliders for the head. Now joysticks and sliders, set that aside. Joysticks and sliders has its own tool for extracting those joysticks to another composition, so we don't have to worry about that. But I also have these sliders to change the position of the feet. So these sliders and everything that they control will be extracted when we extract with Duik. But what about these controllers, these Limber controllers? We can extract them. So to do that, okay, I'm trying to work out in my mind the order of information I want to present. So yes, you can. To do that, all you have to do is select the controllers that you want to extract. So in this case, I'm just going to select the wrists and the ankles. I'm not going to select the shoulders or the hip controllers because I don't really need to have control over those for the purposes of this demonstration. You might need control over those in some future animation. In that case, you would also select those. I'm not going to for this. Then I'm going to go over to Duik and go over to Duik side panel. There we go. And I'm going to, here, let's put Duik up here so you can see the whole thing. Okay, I'm going to tag them all with this tag. All this button does is tag the selected layers with a controller tag. Okay. And that is going to tell Duik what to extract from a composition. So any control layers that you've created with Duik are going to automatically have the control tag. This little tag right here. So I just tagged the left wrist, the right wrist. These are both created by Limber. These control layers. And then things like the sliders here, these sliders, which are created by Duick, already have this controller tag with them. Okay, so that's what you have to do. Now when I go over to this, oops, wrong composition. Limber extract. Okay, now when I go to this composition, select it and hit extract. Duick's going to do its thing. It's got to do its thing. Got to do its thing. Da, da, da. It takes a little while sometimes. Okay, so now I've extracted these controllers, and I have my wrist controllers. Let's go to the timeline so you can see these. I've got these Limber controllers, and they work just the same, kind of. You know, they still control the limb. They even control the appearance of the limb, right? So like, say I wanted to make this leg longer. I just select my ankle controller, come up to the shape properties, and I can make that limb, you know, super long if I wanted to. You know, so that's great. Here's the catch though, or here's a few things you have to keep in mind. Okay. Let's go back to the original composition. If you are using FK controllers for the hands, which I always do, right? I always create an FK controller for my arms because more than likely that's how I'm going to be animating the arms. If not that, I'm going to be switching from IK to FK on the arms. And so anytime you're going to be using FK, you want to have an FK controller, and you want to be parenting hands or feet to that FK controller, not to the original wrist controller, because by being parented to the FK controller, when you switch back to IK, you'll still be parented to the controller. Whereas if you're parented to the wrist controller and not to the FK controller, once you switch to FK, then let's say you have a hand parented to the right wrist right here. If I'm parented to that and then I switch to FK, my hand's going to stick with the right wrist and it's not going to follow the FK. But the other way around, if I'm parented to FK, then when I switch back to IK, it's going to follow the right thing. So with all that being said, hopefully that makes sense. For those of you kind of new to character animation, that might not make a lot of sense, but yeah, it'd take a little bit to explain the difference between IK and FK. But so the whole reason why I'm talking about this is because where did that comment go? We should have that comment still up. Oh well, it's gone. It's gone forever. The reason why, the point I wanted to make with this is that you don't want to mark your FK controllers as controllers to be extracted. You want to leave the FK controllers in the comp, because what happens is if you also extract these FK controllers, the one thing that you kind of lose when you extract Limber controllers is that you lose the ability to switch between IK and FK when you bring those FK controllers over. If you leave the FK controllers in the comp without extracting them, you can switch back and forth between IK and FK and it'll all work. But when you extract those controllers, and I could explain why, but it's just the way that Duick extracts the controllers, that it just doesn't work when you extract the IK or the original controller and the FK controller. So you want to leave those FK controllers untouched, untagged. The other thing that doesn't work when you are extracting Limber is that you don't, let's come over to Limber. In Limber, you have these match FK to IK and match IK to FK. So these buttons are for when you want to switch from IK to FK and you don't want the limb to move, you know, in case your IK and FK controllers are in different spots. Well, you can use these buttons to match them up. That doesn't work when you extract Limber. I think it'd be really cool if in a future version of Limber, this extract feature was kind of built into Limber, because I do think it's super useful to be able to extract controllers from your timeline and then have a timeline that is just controller layers and then one composition. It's just easier to sort through. So anyway, that was a long explanation of that really simple question, which was, can you extract controllers like with Limber? Yes, the answer is yes. Okay, one more question and then we're going to get into the hand thing. So is there any way to fix that pop thing in Duic Basal or when you're bending a leg from full stretch? Not that I know of, unfortunately. Unless somebody in the chat has any ideas, I'm not really sure if you can fix that. You can try mediating it by just not having your body. Yeah, I don't know. It's one of the things that I like about Limber is that anti-pop feature. It just, I don't know exactly how it works, but to my understanding, it just adds a little bit of stretch to your limb, a little bit of a cushion. So when it comes from full straight to bend, it has to go a little bit further before it bends, and it seems to solve that problem. But I don't know of any way to fix that in Duic, unfortunately. All right, let's get back to it. I'm going to undo this extracting because I don't need to actually extract these controllers. Okay. All right. So, again, like I was saying before, a lot of times we can just switch between hand poses. So let's create a couple hand poses. And I'm going to do that in Illustrator. So let's jump over into Illustrator. So luckily I pulled this character from this one right here. This girl. And I have all these other character artwork that I can use to kind of as a reference for hand poses. So obviously this hand pose is pretty good. So I think I want to copy it. And when I draw out my hand poses, actually I think I could probably just lift this one. Aha. Okay. Oops. Okay. I'm literally just going to lift this one just to save time for you guys and for me. Ungroup that. Boom. Okay, so now I have this hand. Straighten this puppy out. And we're going to bring the little hand details over. It's pretty good. Going to... Okay, so... let's do a new file, and I'm just going to collect these hand poses into a new file. And... all right. Okay, so that's hand pose number 1. Let's see. Is there any other interesting hand poses? That's kind of interesting. I kind of like that. Oh, the one from the thumbnail. How about it? Not sure this one will work, but we're going to try it out. Okay. And then we got to bring all these details. Over. Make sure these are. I'm going to have to modify this one a little bit, but we're just coming up with these, and this needs to be flipped. Cool. All right. So we'll refine these, but we just need to, I'm just collecting different hand poses into this file. These hands are all super different. What we need is a closed fist, which doesn't look like they have, so we might have to make our own. Thought I saw something down here I could use. Ooh, this one could be used for pointing, maybe. We'll see. Ungroup. And the reason why I'm separating this fill from these outlines is because these outlines are actually, they outline the stroke, and that creates a really complex path that I won't be able to edit that easily. So, yeah, just grabbing the fill layer since it's the same shape and just adding a stroke to it again. And then these shapes inside, even though there aren't strokes, I'm still using them. Okay, and then just like before, I'm going to cut this part off. Delete that. Oh, we need, we're gonna have to that looks terrible, huh? A little less bad. Okay, let's copy that. Let's put it in our... Oops. Turn it upside down and flip it. The reason why I'm flipping it is because I want my thumbs to all be on the same side so that it's all in the same orientation. This is going to be the right hand, left hand. Okay, let me think. Oh yeah, we wanted a closed fist too, which I don't know if there is a good one. I mean, this is a kind of a closed fist, but it's from the outside of the fist, and I'm looking for this view, which we may have to just make ourselves. Yep. Looks like we're going to have to make it ourselves. Let me just check one other file. That's the same file. What the heck? I know I have a different... Where are the other... This one. Open this one. There we go. That's a different file. Let's search this one and see if we have any good things. Landy, you're asking about the course if it's self-pacing. Yes, once you have access to the course and the full course is out, you will have access to all the lessons forever. And yeah, it's not like semester based. It's not like School of Motion where they have they have enrollment periods and then you have like 12 weeks to do the course. This is at your own pace. You could do it all in one day if you wanted. That's how I like my courses to be anyway. Because I'm a self-learner. I'm a self-paced learner. When I don't like doing courses where it's like one lesson a week and I have to wait a whole week to do the next lesson. No, that's not how I like to do it. So thanks for that question though. All right, we're still on the search for the perfect hand for the closed fist, which I might just have to... Ooh, okay, here we go. Got it. Got him. This isn't perfect, but it might work. We might have something here that we can use. Okay, so ungroup this. We can definitely use... Oh, darn. Well, we can definitely use these shapes. So this is the one disadvantage of using stuff you find online. Says they outline all their strokes. The reason why they're doing that is because they want to make it so that you can scale it up without ruining the stroke width. But for animation in After Effects, it kind of ruins our lives. Because we don't need them to do that. And then, of course, I'm going to have to. Oops. Come on. Okay. We have another question. Off-topic question from a business side. Do you think explainer animation is still profitable, or what do you think about 2D animation from a business side? So I still make money doing explainer videos. That's my short answer. Explainer videos are still profitable, yes, because they don't cost a lot of explainer videos. At least in my business, are somewhat internal videos. You know, it's for a training program or stuff like that. It's cheaper than hiring an entire crew, and you get more of a visual element. A lot of times, training programs can just be a talking head, and that gets real boring real quick. So an explainer video is a good alternative because the visuals are constantly changing, which means you're keeping your audience engaged, and you get to still explain some of the same concepts. So I don't think explainer videos are going anywhere, although the style of explainer videos is always changing. So yeah, that's kind of my short answer. I hope that does answer your question. Does it answer your question? That's the question. That's the question. Okay. Allie, why are you laughing at me? You said lol. It's okay, you can laugh at me. My feelings aren't hurt. Okay, almost done. Almost done setting everything up in Illustrator. Aha. Okay, so let me clear this question. As you guys look at this set of hand poses, now obviously you could come up with, 15 different hand poses for everything you need your character to do. I'm not going to go through, I'm not obviously going to go to that extent for the purposes of this tutorial, but we got these hand poses. You guys are looking at them. I'm wondering, do you guys see anything? Like, what would be the next step here in terms of getting these ready to be used in After Effects? Because I'll tell you right now, they're not ready. And there's one major thing that needs to happen. First of all, they all need to be the same size. Okay. They got to all be the same size. And then the opening here, you notice that I left an opening on each hand, and that's because that's where it's going to connect to the wrists. And so I don't want it to I don't want there to be a line, through the wrist. So I got to leave those open, but the opening all needs to be the same size. So I don't know exactly what size I need it to be in After Effects. So probably what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to readjust everything once I'm into After Effects. But for right now, I'm just going to get them all relatively the same size. So I'm going to use a circle to represent my wrist. And we're just going to use this circle and or sorry, we're gonna base this circle and wrist size off of this hand, and then we'll make all the adjustments to the other hands based on the size that we set here. And the other thing is that the hand all needs to go through right through the middle of that circle. These 2 points at the end of the hand that I've selected here, they need to go right through the middle of that circle, because that's how we're going to position them on the wrist in After Effects. Okay, then I'm going to grab this circle, and while holding Alt, I'll drag it over here so that we duplicate it. And I'm also going to just group this hand so I can just select it. Okay. So again, now it's going to change the geometry of my hand a little bit, so I'll just make those adjustments. Ooh. We also want to make sure there's a white fill on all of these, so we don't want invisible hands. Okay, so for this one, scale. I want to scale the strokes. Okay, so for this one, there we go. Intersect. I think for this one, we're actually going to base it off of this point over here. Okay. And then we'll just make sure. Okay, so that's going right through the middle. And it will do the same thing with this. Oops, group this. There we go. Actually, we might do that. Okay. I'm missing that line, but whatever. You guys get the point. I'm getting lazy. Okay. All right, we're burning the midnight oil. We got to get going. Okay. So now I'm going to bring these over to After Effects. I'm going to use Overlord. Saves me a bunch of time. So I actually don't need these circles to be part of it. So start with the easiest one, Overlord. You can't see it because of the way that Streamlabs captures the software, but there's this little window here with a little button. I hit that button, and then when we go over to After Effects, okay. Now, you'll see my hand. It's right here. Look at that. And I'm going to put it over here. It looks like the stroke is way too small. So let's double that stroke. And we are going to... We're going to take the anchor point, line it straight up right there at the tip of that little pie wedge. And then scale this up just slightly. Nice. Rotate. Oops. For some reason, we got... Man, when your system really starts to slug and like, yeah. It's the life of an After Effects user. All right. So now she's got a hand. And it looks really silly with that stroke. So I'm going to do 2, and then I'm just going to bring the stroke of my arm down. There we go. That looks better. Oh, look at that. Nice. Okay. What we need to do now, just to make things easier on me, is label my layer open hand. And then parent that to the, I believe this is the left wrist. Yep. So we're going to parent this hand to the left wrist FK. This guy right here. Then I'm going to go to the left wrist. And I'm going to just have it go straight down. And we will put that rotation to 0. And hopefully, just to make things run really a lot smoother, I'm just going to solo the arm since that's all we need to be looking at right now. By the way, if you've never used motion, it's really cool because what I can do is I can select all the layers that I want to see here. Like right now, you can see like I have so many layers and I have to search for those. Well, with motion, I can create a little group. I'll call this the left arm. And then I got this little group here. I can solo my timeline based on that group. And now I just have these layers in my timeline. It's hidden all the other layers. How cool is that? Keeps me organized. Link in the description if you want to grab a copy of Motion 3. Okay. We'll do the same with this one. Oh, sorry, I'm back in Illustrator. So now I'm going to bring over this hand. And while I'm at it, might as well bring over the other hands as well. Okay, we'll jump back over to After Effects. And we're basically going to just line all these up with that original hand. And then line up the anchor point of each hand layer to be in the center of that controller. Right at the tip of that little wedge right there. Let's see if we can give you a better view of that. Whoa, that was slow. My Streamlabs is struggling. Okay, so we're putting the anchor point right there at the tip for all these layers. I'm gonna just turn this off. And these are all matching up pretty well because I base them all on that circle. And so since, and I actually got kind of lucky, to be honest. I happened to make them pretty much the right size for this wrist. if you didn't make them the right size, you just have to scale them down until they fit. But because they all have the same size opening, you just have to scale them all at the same rate. So let's say you had to scale them down by 25%. Once you figure that out for the first hand, you just do that for the rest of the hands. But I got really lucky. I happened to make a circle that was exactly the right size for this wrist. I actually don't know how I did that, but okay, I'm going to name this closed hand. You got to always remember to label your layers. This is pointing. And this is open hand. And I'm missing a hand. So I got to jump back over to Illustrator because I should have 4 hands. I'm missing this guy. I don't know what you call this hand pose, but okay, let's jump back to After Effects. There we are. Again, you know, you really don't have to move the anchor point because I'm just used to doing it because in the old version of Limber, if you wanted to animate the rotation of your wrist independently from the rotation of the controller, then you'd have to animate that rotation on the hand layer. But now Limber gives you control over the rotation of your controller even when you've set your rotation to match the rotation of your lower arm. So I actually don't have to move these anchor points because they're, as soon as they're parented to the FK controller here, they're going to be fine. But anyway, hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I've got all my hands here. Now I just need to link them up to a switch or a slider. So we'll come over to Duick. And where is Duick? Duick. There it is. Okay. And right here, let's give you guys a good view of Duick. Okay. We're going to create a little slider here. And then all I have to do, let's just name this. We'll name this slider hand poses. Then all I have to do is semi-open. Okay. So select all these. Come back to Duick. Come over to this little connector here. And let's see so you guys can see it properly. Come to the connector. Click on this little circle. Let's do that again. This little circle right here to come in here. Select. Got to select your hand poses slider layer. And then when you go over to Duick, you load that in by hitting property. And it's very faint. I don't know if the compression will allow you to see it, but right here you can tell that it's loaded in because the name of my slider is right here. Hopefully you can see that. And then we're going to go back to our timeline. Select all the hand layers. Come back to Duick. And then connect opacities. Okay. Now, let's go to full view here. As I drag this slider back and forth, it just switches between these different hand poses. So let's do a little bit of an animation here. So using motion, I'm going to click this button. That's going to bring me back to where I can see all my layers again. It's going to take a second. And while I'm waiting for After Effects to do that, and hopefully it doesn't crash while I'm waiting, let me answer this question. What are your system specs? Well, You wouldn't tell from the fact that it's probably freezing up right now. But I have 64 gigabytes of RAM, DDR4 with a Ryzen 9. I don't even remember what my system information. I have to look at my system information. I've got a 5900X 12 core processor, and I've got a GTX or RTX 3080. Don't be fooled though, that RTX doesn't really make After Effects run any faster. What's going on here, guys? I might have to, let's just save, and it's not like frozen, like the app's not frozen, but whatever motion was doing is like stuck. I don't know. Let's just close the project and reopen it. I don't know what that is. Go back to comp 1. Okay, we're back. Woohoo! I've never had motion do that, so I don't know what happened there, but I'm going to unsolo these layers so we can see our whole rig again. And I must have, oh, I have one layer still. There we go. Okay, so obviously we got to move these layers into the right hierarchy. Just above the left arm. Oops. That's the wrong layers. These are the layers that we want to move. Okay. Left arm. There we go. Okay. So let's just do a quick little animation here. I'm going to have her start on her with her weight on her left leg, shift to the right leg, oops, not quite that crazy. Switch to Mac M1 Max and still that's interesting. I'm interested to see how I really want to see how After Effects does on the M1 Max, especially when they release the full M1 version of After Effects. I've seen some preliminary things. It mostly improves the performance of the exporting. Okay, you guys can hear me now, right? I don't know what happened. My mic, it was plugged in. It just like stopped working. Okay, as I was saying, I was asking Abu if you knew if the M1 Ready app for After Effects was actually like out, or is it still in beta? Because last time I checked, it was still in beta. But I don't use Apple, so at least not for my main workstation. So I'm not really clued in on that. But I was just saying. Also, I don't know when the audio cut out, but I was saying that from what I've seen, it mostly improves render times and not actual performance of the app itself. So anyway, I have a hard time animating and talking at the same time, so that these live streams end up being a lot longer than I intended. Okay, so she's gonna shift her. Oh, you know what? I forgot to do before we did everything is these all need to be parented to the left wrist IK. And because they weren't, they got a little off. So we'll just make that adjustment. Okay. So here we go. She shifts. And I don't know what animation's on here. Let me... Shifts her weight. I want this. Okay, and then the left wrist. I don't know what. I'm just kind of making up this animation as I go just to show you, like, we're actually going to have this the normal hand. Okay, and then we're going to take the left wrist. Ugh. Okay, this is why I like using Okay, and then maybe she goes like that. My computer's already starting to do that thing where it's slowing down. Okay. So as she comes up, this is where we will go to the hand poses and create a keyframe here. And I'm going to toggle it to a hold keyframe. And then the reason why we're using hold keyframes on this is because I want to switch from this hand pose to this hand pose without going through this hand pose first, right? So I just want to be on this hand pose. So watch what happens. See, as soon as she goes, boom. Okay, and then obviously I've got to finesse this. So I need a little bit of a follow through here. Okay, and then I'll add some easing, and then with like stuff with rotating, I just go down the line and offset the keyframes. See that? See how it's like, this is how After Effects gets, like, it just feels slow. So I'll go up to the purge that memory disk cache. While I'm doing that, so we're having a little discussion. Okay, I checked again. I think it is M1 ready. It even detected Intel-based plugins, and it wouldn't allow for After Effects to use it unless you launch After Effects in Rosetta mode. Yeah, so you might be right then. It might actually be out. I have been noticing a lot of emails from plugin makers saying that they're updating their plugins for M1. So you might be right. Okay, so here we go. Preview this animation. Okay. So there you go. So this kind of animation is probably the most common if you go watch a cartoon, like a late night cartoon. I like to, a lot of times with this kind of animation where I'm switching the hand pose. Here, I'm going to give you guys a better view of this animation. I like to hide this switch right here where it switches the hand pose. I like to hide that in the middle of like a quick motion. So I'll go somewhere like right here when I know is the middle of the motion. And it just hides that like kind of quick motion really quickly. Just like getting ready to battle or something. Okay, and then what other poses do we have? That hand looks funny to me, sorry. Okay. So that's it. So that's how you set up a hand rig. You're basically setting up a slider that just switches between the opacities of a bunch of different layers. And you can even copy the layers. One thing you can do is you can bring your slider over here and you can, modify the size of the slider. So we can make this slider a little bit wider to accommodate this. And then we could make it just slightly bigger. Okay, and then what we can do is you can grab these hands and we can bring them over here and disable those. Oops. Deleted the expression off the wrong layer. Basically, I'm just duplicating these and then just using these as reference for my slider so I know, which position for which hand position. Open hand should be over here. So there you go. So I know from right here, right here, right here. I don't know why that one's disappearing, but okay. So that's that. Now, what do you do if you want to actually be able to animate the digits moving? And when would you want to create a rig like this? For this one, we can just do this all in After Effects. So you'd only do this if you need to animate like the digits moving. So, some use cases I could think of off the top of my head would be if you're doing a close-up of a hand animation, grabbing or something like that, you would do this. I've done this for, full body animations before. I've created these hand rigs. So you have full control over the hand. But a lot of times just creating that little switch template is all you need, especially for explainer video. But essentially what we're going to do is the same thing. We're going to just create a bunch of sliders that control each finger. So first I'm going to draw my palm. I'm just going to do something real quick here. In fact, I'll just do this from kind of like a 3/4 perspective. Jeez, my After Effects is really struggling. Okay, and then this will be the pinky. No need for fill. Add a little thing there. Move this right. Oh my goodness. I'm running out of steam. Okay, so this is just one way. I'm just using a path. So here's this path. This is like the pinky. I'm going to go through one finger, and then you would just duplicate this process for all the other fingers. So I'm going to add a keyframe to the path, go down one, and I've found that doing 3 keyframes is the best because you tend to want to be able to control this kind of midpoint, how it bends, especially if you're doing this kind of 3/4 thing, and then all the way bent. Okay. And I'm going to duplicate that finger, move it over, and just for the purposes of being able to read this, okay, duplicate that finger, and we're going to do the famous 4-fingered hand. And I drew this stupid box, but we'll do that later. Okay. So each one of these looks like that. Obviously with, a proper hand, all of your fingers are not the same size, so do that. Okay, and then a thumb. We need a thumb, so duplicate this. And we'll bring it down over here. rotate it. There we go. Okay. The thumb, we're probably going to have to start over just because it's at a different angle, so... And I'm going to make the thumb a little bit brighter. Okay. And then... Okay. So we got everything set up, all keyframed. And then what we are going to do now, we could do two things here. We could, Binsar, thanks for subscribing. We could either rig them up individually so we have individual control over each finger, or we can rig them all up to one slider that will control them all. I'm going to do them individually just to show you how it's done, but the process is pretty much the same. Once you know how to do one finger, you know how to do them all. So with Duik, again, we're going to come over to Duik and we're going to create a little slider here. Before we do, I'm just going to name my layers. So I'm going to name this one thumb, index, middle, pinky. The reason why I'm naming these is A, to stay organized, and B, when I create my sliders, it's going to name the slider after the finger. So for example, with the pinky here, and I actually want to modify the pinky when it's bent. I don't want it to be quite as long. Okay. So with the pinky selected, I'll come over here to Duik and oops. So I've got the pinky selected, come over to Duik and create a slider. And then in my composition, I now have this slider, and in the timeline, it's called pinky because I had my pinky selected when I created that slider. So Duik is smart enough to know that that slider is probably going to be for the pinky. Now, after creating that slider over here in Duik, that pinky slider is already loaded in here, right here. So I don't have to hit property to load it in because when I created it, it automatically loaded it into the connector tool. So now all I have to do is go back to my timeline, select the keyframes that I want to connect to that slider, which in this case the pinky keyframes, and then go back to Duik and hit connect properties. So now I can control. Ooh, it's doing something weird. So it's doing something weird, so we got to investigate what's going on. So I'm going to disable this expression, and let's just double check what is going on here. Ah, that is what's going on. We had basically we had a path that had 4 points. 2 of those points are on top of each other, and it was like a loop. And what I want is just a point in the middle here. And I don't want this point. So what we have to do is and I suspect that that's going to happen with all of these. So I've got to open that up, delete this point. No, I just want to delete this point. Delete that point, add a point in the middle, which means I'm going to have to redo all these. That's my bad for not realizing the kind of path I created. A path to the dark side. Okay. Good thing is I can go in here, correct all these. The thumb's going to have this issue too. No, the thumb is fine. It's probably because I had to start over with the thumb. Okay. So I'm going to do the same thing with the middle. Select it. Create a slider. Slider's already loaded in. And then select the middle keyframes. Connect. And I should be able to re-enable that expression. And now everything is bending like I wanted it to. So we'll go to the index, create a slider, move this slider up here, select my index keyframes, hit connect properties. The reason why it's bending is because the slider by default is in the middle. And if I wanted my hand to be completely closed, I'm going to spread them like that. And then thumb, we'll do the same with the thumb. Connect the thumb. Once you know how connectors work, they're super easy to use. You know, I can grab all these, open up my hand. Okay, so now I'm going to do one other thing. Is I'm going to center all these anchor points and put the anchor points at the bottom of each finger as a rotation point. And then I'm going to grab these rotation properties, create 3 keyframes, and I'm going to create basically 3 different poses for everything. Actually, we're probably fine with just 2 poses here. I'm going to create a new slider. This slider we're going to call finger spread. And then we're going to make sure that the finger spread is loaded into Duik. Then we're going to grab the rotation properties of all these keyframes on all these different layers and hit connect properties. Now the rotation of all of these are connected to this one slider. Okay. So I'm just going to do a rough palm shape here. We can actually get this connector layer out of here. And I'm going to turn off the stroke. Okay. I don't know. I'm just really quickly. Okay. Boom. There's a basic hand rig right there that you can use. You know, we can do stuff like this. Flip somebody off. But that's not nice, so we don't want to do that. We can do the peace sign. Peace. Do little finger. Forgetting which. Pointing. So obviously we can take this much further, but we're basically out of time. We're almost at 2 hours, so I think that's pretty good. So basically, I hope you guys learned something from this video. We've covered how to use switch templates, and I've shown you one way. This is just one way you can quickly create a little hand rig. Then obviously we can take this composition. We could take this composition. We could go into a composition like this, embed it, parent it to that wrist controller, and then extract those sliders, and you could have full animation with that. So before we end the live stream today, I always want to make sure I give a chance for you guys to ask any questions you may have had throughout the live stream. I always invite people to ask questions throughout the live stream, but I want to cover anything that maybe wasn't directly related to what we were doing today. If you've already pre-ordered the character animation course, a big thank you from me. I really appreciate that. I appreciate this support. By the way, big milestone for me, we finally crossed the 10,000 follower mark on Instagram. That's a huge one for me. So if you're following me on Instagram, thank you. If you're not yet following me on Instagram, what are you doing? Go get on Instagram. Follow me right here. That's my handle, Instagram handle. Also, if you're interested and you're on TikTok, maybe you're on TikTok more than Instagram, go follow me on TikTok. I don't think I have any followers on TikTok yet, which, I'm not surprised because I honestly haven't really posted much on TikTok yet. But I'm just going to go over to my thing. Ooh, I got 2 followers on TikTok. So if you're on TikTok and you want to follow me, be posting like little tips and tricks, go follow me on TikTok. I will love you forever. And if you don't follow me on TikTok, you're dead to me. Thanks everybody for joining the live stream. Hit me up with your questions in the comment section before we close this out. For the 10 or so of you that stuck around for most of this, huge thank you to you guys. Thanks for joining. I always enjoy these live streams. I hope you do too. Want to make sure there's nothing else I want to cover before we jump off here. Big thanks to those of you who did comment and ask questions throughout this live stream. Always appreciate the participation, the back and forth. Abu, I checked one of my old projects on the new M1 and surprisingly it's way faster. That's awesome. That's great to hear. Just joined, so I'll watch when it gets uploaded. Hey, sorry about that. But yeah, it will be up on my channel in the playlist, live streams. You can go catch it there. Questions for you guys. Things you want me to cover in future live streams. Leave that in the comment section, or better yet, leave that as a comment on the video and not in the comment section, because sometimes, leave it in the comment section, not in the live chat. Sometimes it's harder for me to find those suggestions in the live chat when I have to go back through, because the live chat replays with, as it was live, so I have to go through the video to find those suggestions. So if you have suggestions for future topics, leave it as a comment on the video. Or you can follow me on Instagram and go message me on Instagram. Always looking for topics for future live streams. I do have plans here in the future to have some fellow motion designers to join me on the live streams. So that can be fun. That's going to be fun. All right, guys. Well, if there is no questions, I think I'm going to jump off here and go grab some dinner. It's been fun. I really enjoyed it. And we'll see you guys. Keep an eye out on the channel. We have some big changes coming to the channel here in the next week or so that I'm really excited about. We've been working on these for the last couple of weeks, and we're excited to kind of revamp the channel and get things going. If you're not yet subscribed, make sure you're subscribed to the channel so you know when I'm going live and when you know when I post a new video. And so, yeah,